Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
They want to make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever.
Disappointed!
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? TGIF. It's Friday. Well, we're through the week. One last show for the week, and then we're off for the weekend. Thank goodness. Looking forward to that. But first, we got news. We got stuff to go through. We got stories. We're gonna talk about stuff and things. All right. Some of the stuff. Let me just kind of break down, some of the stories here that we're going to talk about today. We have Christian Smalls, the founder of the Amazon Workers Union, going on Tucker Carlson. Oh, interesting. So I'm going to talk about that. I know there's a little drama around that, but I'm going to not focus on the drama. And I actually want to point out that this might have been a good thing. So that's obviously what the drama is about, but I'm not going to address that. We're gonna focus on the substance, and then why this could be a good thing. And so then, rich people losing money on NFTs. I love it. Daily Wire goes full mask off, as always. And so I guess the mask's already been off for some time, but nonetheless, the most heinous statements, this time about, and they can't help themselves. They got to keep talking about slavery. Okay, and then we also are going to talk about Tennessee Republicans. One of them wanted to praise Hitler. Yes, I'm not kidding. And then the Air Force has offered to get people out of red states. It's an amazing story. We're going to talk about that. Really, really interesting. All right, so we're going to do that. So those are the stories that we're going to talk about today. If you haven't already, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. It helps us out greatly, as usual. So please do that. All right. With that said, you can also help with super chats. Obviously, send your super chats. I'll read them at the end of the show. That should be fun. Really, really appreciate your input and reading those. So thank you on that. And of course, our Twitch community as well. By the way, Kathleen Lane, thank you for resubbing for a month of Tier 1. Really appreciate that. That's another way for you to help. All right, so let's do it. Let's jump in. All right. Amazon Union founder Christian Smalls has been making the media appearances rounds following his successful unionization push in a warehouse in Staten Island. Now, it's the first union of its kind for Amazon, the first labor win. I think it was absolutely wonderful that they were able to do this. And by the way, they're continuing to fight Amazon, who is contesting the election. And so there's still a lot more to do, and as well as getting a unionized contract in place. Now, following his appearance on MSNBC, again, he's making the media rounds. Smalls was actually invited to speak with Tucker Carlson on Fox News. Now, there's a little bit of, I don't know, disagreement, I guess, on the idea of going on Tucker Carlson, a little bit of drama that's surrounding this. Because you and I know, we all know, you're watching the show, Tucker Carlson has his own agenda. So generally he tends to bring on people to a show to push a particular narrative or a particular talking point. Now, in this case, I'm going to show you an example here. This is before he had Christian Smalls on to talk to him when he was setting up this interview. And of course, you're not going to be surprised that he goes after his favorite politician, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Take a look.
Sandy Cortez spends a lot of time telling you that she's on the side of the worker. She's like a modern wobbly. She's the Walter Reuther of our day. And that's why last year she vowed to stand alongside striking workers at Amazon's Staten Island warehouse. And we're for that because they need the help. But at the last minute, Sandy Cortez bailed on the whole thing. And that infuriated labor organizers who just won a big vote to unionize at the Staten Island facility. Now, Amazon is stepping up its effort to crush the union. Amazon has just banned words like union on its employee chat app. Christian Smalls is a union leader at Amazon, and we're happy to have him join us now. Christian, thanks so much for coming on. Were you surprised that Sandy Cortez, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who has said repeatedly that she's on the side of the worker against the corporation, wasn't standing with you at the barricades?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it wasn't just her. It was all of them pretty much, you know. It's not
fair.
You know, I don't want it to make it just between us and AOC because, you know, a lot of them didn't show up. And, you know, once again, we have no ill will against them. We know that whether they showed up or not, they didn't make or break our election. We just had to continue to organize.
So, look, that answer, pretty good. And look, Tucker Carlson, he's trying to throw out that bait. It's like, Sandy Cortez, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez didn't show up. And he's like, well, yeah, but nobody showed up. You know, and by the way, we didn't need them. Would have been nice to have them, but we didn't need them. That's our moment. And I think that's totally fine. Yes, nobody showed up. I think it's totally fine if you want to ask, hey, where are the politicians? You know, you say you're going to be on the side of unions. Well, then be on the side of unions. And by the way, you know, very few politicians seem to walk the walk. Bernie Sanders literally walked the walk. Not when it came to the Amazon, but he has walked in the picket lines of unions before, to be fair. And again, Bernie Sanders has spoken out in favor of these unions as well. And so, nonetheless, it is important to ask. And it's really a fair question. Where are the politicians? That said, as Smalls alluded to, the labor movements are not top-down. If they were top-down directed by a politician, then it wouldn't be much of a unionization effort from the ground, because it requires people from the ground. They are literally bottom-up. And so it's all about the people who are doing the work. And besides, if a politician comes in and says, oh, yeah, union, I help this with the union, yeah. No, you're going to accuse that politician of what? Taking all the credit. And by the way, that's some of what the drama is about surrounding AOC, who I remember, if you had watched a show earlier this week, some people were accusing her of that for simply voicing support for the union win and congratulating on them on that. And again, Small says, well, look, this isn't about her. This is about the union. This isn't about any politician. And so I like the whole message of, let's not distract people with this drama, with bringing in AOC. She's got nothing to do with this. And it's all about the workers. It's all about the win. So I think it's really good that Smalls brought this back away from AOC, did not take the bait, and talked about what was really important. And I give him a ton of credit. Again, the focus should be on the movement, not the politicians. And so I want to give you more of that video, by the way, where Tucker obviously, you know, the distraction didn't work. And so he actually is going to ask a substantive question. Take a look.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird moment because, I mean, I'm on the right. I've never been particularly pro-union, but it does seem like Amazon needs some counterbalance. Like, it's this huge company. The workers have no power, and maybe we could, I don't know, share a little power with the people who work there. So that's my view anyway. So tell us where you are in your organizing efforts.
Well, right now, you know, we're fighting for a contract. You know, Amazon's disputing the election results. So we're in walking and chewing bubble gum at the same time. We're fighting for a contract. We're preparing for another election in 2 weeks on April 25th. We're going to be voting at a second location directly across the building that we just unionized. So we're in the thick of a fight right now, you know, a legal battle. And, you know, we just have to stay grounded and pretty much begin our campaign all over again.
I mean, you'd think that Amazon would be open to a union, wouldn't you? It's a very progressive company. Why do you think they're trying to thwart you from organizing?
Amazon hasn't been unionized in this country since the beginning of its existence, and they're very anti-union. You know,
Yeah.
They created a system that hires and fires people. They created a system that they have full control of the working people, and you know, having a union obviously brings representation for the workers that'll benefit the workers at the bottom, like myself, hourly associates, entry-level workers that don't get the right to negotiate. So forming a union gives us the right to collective bargain with the company, form a contract to protect ourselves. So that's exactly what we're trying to do with the Amazon Labor Union. We're hoping that we'll be a catalyst for something that'll take place nationwide.
Well, I certainly am rooting for you. I mean, maybe if they throw some more woke slogans at you, you'll forget you can't feed your family.
I'm sorry, what the fuck was that laugh? Right at the end. I mean, he couldn't help himself, right? Oh, yeah, let's throw some woke slogans at you. Yeah. Okay, yeah, no. That was super bizarre. But as far as Smalls is concerned, no, he did a fantastic job. That was great. He explained his position perfectly and what they're planning on doing and why a union is necessary. So that's fantastic. Now, that said, Tucker Carlson, well, he already admitted, oh yeah, I'm not exactly pro-union. No, he's incredibly anti-union. He's anti-union and anti-labor, and yet pretends to be pro-labor and pro-worker. See, understand that that's Tucker Carlson's stick, right? But the fact that he pretends to be in favor, that's important. Because remember, not all union members and workers are leftists. Now, I think that should be fairly obvious. However, I mean, look, let me give you an example, okay? John Deere strikers. Now, I covered the John Deere strikers. I thought that was fantastic. And you know what? A lot of them were Republicans. And the fact of the matter on that is that labor is what unites the 99%. I love those strikers at John Deere, the concrete workers that were on strike in Seattle, who are continuing to negotiate in order to form a stronger contract, Kellogg's workers, Starbucks workers, the average working class people who deserve representation. I want good working conditions, pay, and benefits for everybody. That includes conservatives, not just people that are on the left, all right? And everybody. And you know what? I think unions are a great way to do it. of course, not the only way. There is, of course, worker co-ops and things like that, which are incredibly beneficial, and I'd like to see more of those. So anything that helps to put workers in positions to where they have a voice and a stake in the company and are able to get the fair fruits of their labor of what they put into the company. So now, that said, Tucker Carlson, not at all interested in labor. He was really trying to push the hate against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which, as I mentioned, she's not really relevant in the story. Again, Smalls, he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Don't really care. I don't hold any ill will. That's not important. She is not important here. Instead, he took the opportunity, and I give him, again, tons and tons of credit for this one. He used Tucker Carlson's platform to spread a pro-worker, pro-union message. And even got Tucker, whether or not he's lying, he probably is, to say pro-worker things like, oh, I'm not exactly a union guy, but I do think that the workers should have, at Amazon, should have a little bit more of a voice. Yes, I agree with you. I do. Again, we know you're not being honest about it, but you said it, and I think that's important. That's really valuable because that's millions of people that have just seen that message. Now, last point. Amazon, not progressive. Look, obviously companies don't have a political ideology themselves. What they have is a fiduciary responsibility to do what? Well, maximize profit for their shareholders. Amazon crushes unions because they want to exploit workers. There's nothing progressive about exploitation. No, what Tucker Carlson's talking about, by the way, when he did that stupid, weird laugh, is he was talking about woke capitalism. Now, that's where companies will say things like, oh, Black Lives Matter, and we love LGBTQ people. And then they give to politicians that will criminalize protest, that will fight against voting rights, and will do anti-gay legislation. Those politicians almost always happen to be Republicans. So let me just point that out, okay? And by the way, Tucker Carlson himself has done numerous anti-LGBTQ segments. And so, I mean, there's that. So again, rainbow or woke capitalism, whatever you want to call it, guess what? That infuriates people on the left as well. We despise that because it's, number one, it's insulting. And number two, it's just lying and using the community that leftists, we care for, we love, just using them cynically for a buck. And so, yes, obviously we hate that. So now, I think this is, look, I've never had a problem with progressives going on Tucker Carlson. I've always said that if you're going to do that, don't fall for the bait and actually go and talk about substantive issues. Again, you don't have to go in there and agree with Tucker Carlson. No, the whole point is to get Tucker Carlson and more importantly, his audience to agree with leftist positions. And that's exactly what Smalls was, I believe, able to do. You make him agree with you, even though, we know he's full of shit, his viewers don't know he's full of shit, and so even they might agree. That might make just some of his followers to think, oh, unions, turns out, not so bad. So with that, let me just leave you off with this final thing. Hopefully I set it up right.
If Russia or
I did not. All right, sad baby, we'll move on. I was going to show you a video of that slowed down, that Tucker laugh. Maybe another day. Okay. Damn, that would have been real good. Anyway.
There's insanity in the control room.
True. Tucker's plays these segments that try to peel off some people who don't already know what he's about. Yeah, I mean, again, Tucker is absolutely trying to do that. And again, that does show you, though, what's interesting about that is that it does show you how one of those things, I mean, labor, obviously incredibly populist, and how corporations, everybody knows corporations are screwing us. And so, you know, as long as we can continue to focus on that message and not let the right co-opt that, because they don't care at all about labor, they don't care at all about workers' rights. Don't let them, you know, appropriate that, call the bullshit where it is, but also try to meet people, you know, and sway those people from Tucker's side onto ours. Got to win those hearts and minds. Here we go. Well, hopefully I got that one. Nope, I did not. A millionaire who bought an NFT for about $2.9 million is about to lose $2.9 million. Big surprise. So let me give you the story here. Back in March of 2021, a crypto entrepreneur named Sena Estavi bought an NFT for $2.9 million, but seems to have a very difficult time selling that NFT. Now, before I get into that, some of you might be still wondering, what the hell is an NFT? What are you talking about? Well, that stands for non-fungible token. So basically what that means is that it is supposed to be unique. There's supposed to be a unique identifier that cannot be replaced with something else, and it is supposed to show that you technically own this thing. Now, this thing, of course, is not real. It only exists online in something called a blockchain. And so it's basically not a real thing. It doesn't actually exist. Now, NFTs are generally attached to something called or it's usually an image file, essentially. But it's not limited to image files. You can attach it to music, you can attach it to video, you can attach it to whatever. You can attach it to a bunch of dumb apes, or Melania Trump's picture, something like that. Now the picture, of course, is usually, I mean, there's nothing stopping you from right-clicking and hitting save as to take the NFT. Oh, but you understand, it's the identifier. It's the unique identifier. That's what gives it value. But why? Again, you right-click and right-click save as the picture, and you can just look at it all day for free. It doesn't make any sense. But the supposed value is supposed to be in the identifier. And that value is extremely subjective. Now, that said, to show you an example of what is extremely subjective, this guy tried to sell this $2.9 million NFT of Jack Dorsey's first tweet. Yeah. Jack Dorsey's first tweet. Of which, of course, you can look up online, right-click, and save as, and you can also own a copy of Jack Dorsey's first tweet. So now, yes, you could go and funge this image. It is absolutely fungible. And you know what? You could funge that image all day. You could funge it real good. And yet, Estavi tried to sell this for $48 million. You know how much they offered for it? As of Thursday, he received a top bid of just $6,800. And some of the original bids were $200 and $300. Maybe somebody felt bad for him. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I'll give you $6,800 for it. I'll give you $350. Not worth it. Not worth it. It's just, it's dumb. All right. But now, following this less than stellar bid, he decided to take down this listing. But I want to give you a quote here, because this is probably the most hilarious thing I've ever heard. Here's what he said. My offer to sell was high, and not everyone could afford it. Astavi told Reuters via Twitter direct message, adding that he was no longer sure that he would sell the NFT. Oh, you know what? It's not that nobody will buy it. It's that I'm not selling it anymore. Oh, is that what's going on? Oh, that's sad. That's so sad. So sad. More. He said, it's important to me who wants to buy it. I will not sell this NFT to anyone because I do not think everyone deserves this NFT. This guy, even without the unbearable voice, so fucking unbearable. Oh my God. Like, how much more of a douchebag could someone be? Oh, well, obviously, you just couldn't afford my beautiful NFT. Yes. Oh, that must be it. It's not the fact that it's a fucking stupid idea, and I would have to be a moron to buy it. Well, he was a moron. He paid $3 million for that. For that. Oh my God. Unbearable. Unbearable. Oh, you can't afford my shitty NFT. Good, because I don't want to sell it. No, I don't want it. That's not worth $48 million. That's not worth anything. I can get it for free. I can get it for free. There's no value to it. Oh, but you don't understand. It shows the value in the blockchain. Really? No, here's another quote from him. He said, this NFT is not just a tweet. This is the Mona Lisa of the digital world. Oh. I'm floored. The Mona Lisa of the digital world. No, here's the thing. Do you think that any normal person is ever going to give a single shit about, oh, the NFT that I own on the blockchain? You go and you ask any regular person, any regular worker, you go to Starbucks and you ask your barista, oh, hey, what about this beautiful NFT I have? They're going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Do you, what, like, you know, you go to order, sir, this is a Wendy's. I don't know what you're talking about. What's this blockchain? I don't understand. And you know, you ask, again, any worker, you're going to be like, what are you talking about? This is ridiculous. And then if you can explain the blockchain, they're going to be like, you are probably the dumbest motherfucker I have ever met. I mean, again, and if you're buying an NFT, if you are buying an NFT, unless you've actually made money off this, because, hey, people have actually made money selling these things because there were people stupid enough to buy them. And so this guy was not smart enough to unload his for any profit. No, he lost money. No, if you've made money on it, good for you, man. That's great. But if you're the one buying it and holding the bag and losing money, then you probably are stupid, like literally, and you have too much money. You're both dumb and have too much money to spend on nonsense, on stupid tokens. And for those people, again, because this is all rich people buying these things and trading these things. Well, if that's the case, and since that's the case, because look, a majority of the crypto transactions and these NFTs are all rich people. all owned by a very, very small amount of people who are getting rich off selling this to other people, to dumb people. Well, since that's the case, why don't we just tax the rich more? They got all this money to throw around. And any angry crypto bros in the chat, funge these nuts. All right. Moving on. Oh, by the way, yeah, you know what? If you're really desperate for an NFT and you really believe in it, I could just I could sell this video as an NFT. I'll charge the low $100 million, and then you can have it right in the blockchain. I'll take cash, please. Okay, anyway. Move on to some cringe. Daily Wire co-CEO went full mask off during a recent discussion where they talked about the 3/5 compromise. Take a look.
If Russia is one of the China better or any other country has the...
Hold on, let me fix that.
The 3/5 compromise is one of the better kind of concepts that the founders came up with to long-term end slavery in America. They didn't say a black person is 3/5 of a human. They said, it doesn't make sense, slave owners in the South, that you're going to count your unrepresented, unable to vote, and unable to function in everyday life slave population in your census for the purpose of representation in the Congress. Maybe you can't count them. And the South, particularly South Carolina, essentially said they wouldn't join the union if they didn't get to count them. And so the compromise was they don't get to count all the way so that you don't get to use
an enslaved population
to gain votes.
That's an important academic point. It's true, but it's also like we should just be able to respond. Well, that makes no difference right now. That has no bearing on modern America.
Oh, really? Okay, so I love how it's like, they did it this way so that they couldn't use an enslaved population to gain votes. But that's exactly what they did. That was the whole point of allowing them to do 3/5. Okay, yeah, we'll let you into the union, and in return for you staying and joining the union, we're going to allow you to at least count 60% of your slave population. And that's what that is. So that you get more representation in Congress, even though the people that you're counting, you do not consider to be citizens or even human beings. Oh, congratulations. Right, great. Now, look, slaves had no right to vote. Obviously, they weren't considered people. That's not a good thing. That's a terrible thing. That's a terrible compromise. That's awful. And by the way, the reason it existed is because these southern slave states wanted to keep these human beings as forced labor so they could exploit them for profit. It is greed and dehumanization at its most cruel and justified, of course, through massive racism. And contrary to this guy, this is the one that was talking was Jeremy Boring. He said that that the 3/5 compromise did help long-term to help slavery in the United States. No, it didn't. That didn't. No, that continued slavery. It did nothing of the kind. Again, you know what actually did help end slavery? The South getting its clot cleaned during the Civil War. That's what happened. That's how that worked. The Southern slave states literally tried to leave the United States so they could continue with their horrible practice of human exploitation. That's what it is. And that's the reason that they even allowed slaves to be counted in the first place, because they were afraid of larger, more progressive states would outvote them. So they came up with this. And by the way, there were other compromises that were related to this, thanks again to the southern slave states, which meant the creation of the Senate. And it gets to where I believe the other guy was talking about, where it's like, oh, well, it's got no effect on today. I mean, it's got nothing to do with today. Oh, really? Really? What about the creation of the Senate? How about that? Where every state, no matter how many people were there, and again, this is one of the compromises they made. No matter what the population of the state, you got 2 senators to represent your state. Every state got the same. Do you know what the Senate, the function of the Senate is today? It's where legislation goes to die. That's where it goes. And so, look, conversations like this, this is why they want to ban any discussion of race in school. Why they want to ban critical race theory. And by the way, critical race theory, not in K through 12 education, but it's in college. But we've seen Republicans now go after critical race theory in college. And so, look, he said, there's nothing to do with today. No, it's extremely relevant. And here's some examples. Where did Build Back Better go to die? In the Senate. Where does voting rights go to die? In the Senate. Where does most of the power concentrated these days? It's concentrated in Republicans that represent small slave states that consistently will block good pieces of legislation that could help the majority of Americans. That's why it's relevant. It goes all the way back to the formation of our country and how our government, our bicameral house, where you have, our bicameral legislature, where you have the House that actually does have proportional representation, and then you have the Senate, which does not. And that set in the Senate is what gives these small states the ability to overrule the majority of the population when it comes to legislation. That's it. So yes, that's what they have. That's what they've done. They've created that system to give the minority who supported slavery all of this power. That's why it's extremely relevant. The 3/5 compromise, and by extension, all the rest, has concentrated power in the hands of a few regressive assholes who use it to hold the country back on so many different issues. That's why conservatives do not want us to know history or to learn about racism or slavery and how those decisions still impact us today. And by the way, getting back to something that somebody in the chat had said, wasn't it the Democrats who were the racists back in the day? The Democratic Party, yes, it was. They did a flip in the 60s during the civil rights. The Republicans then got all the racists, and the Democrats got all the abolitionists. That's why, of course, you had Lincoln was a Republican. Also, really important to know your history, right? Because Republicans today are like, oh, see, we were the party of Lincoln. Party, but not ideology, because you had an ideology flip. And so, no, it was, again, the Democrats that were the conservatives back in the day. And the Republicans were actually the liberals. And so that's important context that people need to know. Now, of course, the current Republican Party wants to prevent people from learning about these things so that they can mislead people and say, no, we're actually not the party of racism. No, we're not the party of racism. And by the way, you don't need to know about racism. It doesn't exist. So not really important at all. It has no effect on today. Not true at all. Not true at all. And so this is a great mask off moment, even though I guess maybe they weren't even wearing the masks. But this is just an absolute, praising of systemic racism and a rewrite of history. Jeremy Buring, you're both a gross person and a racist. Speaking of racists, white hoods, masks, all that stuff. A Republican politician in Tennessee can't help but praise Hitler. That's right. During a debate on a bill that would criminalize homeless camps on public property in that state, State Senator Frank Nicely wanted to inspire homeless people that they too could be more like Hitler.
1910, Hitler decided to live on the streets for a while. So for 2 years, Hitler lived on the streets and practiced his oratory and his body language and how to connect with masses, and then went on to lead a life that got him in the history books. So a lot of these people, it's not a dead end. They can come out of these homeless camps and have a productive life, or in Hitler's case, a very unproductive life.
Okay. Wow. Hey, look, if you're a homeless person, you just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and you too could be like Adolf Hitler. Wait, what? Uh-oh. Wow. Okay. Now, the best thing, of course, is that this guy had almost no self-awareness until like the end, where he's like, oh, you know, very unproductive life. Oh, all right. Wow, great. Now, look, who could ever imagine using Hitler as a role model, especially as like, look at that inspirational person. He pulled himself out of poverty bootstraps and then went on to do one of the most greatest, biggest atrocities in the country, in the world. But yeah, bootstraps. Now, look, he's not even right. Okay. Yes, Hitler did not choose to be homeless, for one, the Washington Post explains. Having failed to gain admission into the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts, he used up his savings and ended up sleeping on park benches and begging for money. It's like a good conservative, right? Years before the Holocaust, he lived in a hostel for the homeless in Vienna between 1910 and 1913. And many of his friends were Jews, according to The Guardian. Historians noted how Hitler described this period of homelessness as the harshest and saddest time of his life. Oh, sad. But not really. Back to Nicely, right? So now, Nicely turns out not so nice. In 2009, Nicely was among a group of Tennessee Republicans who attempted to force President Obama to turn over the birth certificate. Ah, yes, the birth certificate, which again was just a gigantic racist dog whistle and a reaction from Republicans that were like, oh, we can't have a black man as president. Nah. And so now at the time, he claimed that Obama's Kenyan relatives said that Obama was born in Kenya. Yeah. So there's that. Oh, but there's more. And in 2017, Nicely told E&E News that carbon dioxide emissions, of which are a significant driver of climate change, is not a pollutant. And said, it's just as natural as oxygen. Okay, but that doesn't have anything to do with whether or not it's a pollutant. I mean, it is. You put too much into the atmosphere and you get some pretty bad things. I mean, I know you don't understand. It's natural, so it must be good for you. It must be good for the environment. Well, if it's so good, Nicely, why don't you just go and suck on an exhaust pipe? What? It's fine. It's just as natural as oxygen. You'll be all right. Right? I mean, the guy's ridiculous. Now, finally, the bill that they were talking about, again, that will only make homelessness worse. If you criminalize homeless people, it will put that mark on their record, right? And make it more difficult for them to get a job and get out of poverty. It'll make it harder for them to get back on their feet. Not to mention, this guy's probably against supporting people with mental health care. Okay, because that's an important thing too. Because there are people out there who are homeless, who are unhoused, that need mental health care, and they can't get it because we don't have a mental health care system. We don't have resources and support. And of course, there are some people that choose not to get that support. And there are some people that choose to not go and take advantage of some of these programs. And I understand that as well. I don't think that's the majority, but that does happen and it does exist. Still, you have Republicans out there, and Democrats, by the way, who push back against doing anything to help homeless people find homes. Because I think the majority of them really do want to get back on their feet, and they're facing really, really hard times. And we need to do something about that. We need to house them. We need mental health care. So, but again, these people are against that. So here you have an example of a terrible person idolizing a complete and utter monster in defense of what is a disgusting bill. And right there, good example, the modern Republican Party. All right. Whew. Let's move on. Following the flood of anti-LGBTQIA+ laws being proposed in states under Republican control, the U.S. Air Force is doing something interesting. They're actually offering to move personnel out of red states if they or their families are threatened. Now, again, this is incredibly unprecedented here. I never thought that I would talk about this or do a story like this. So let me give you some details, okay? Now, HuffPost reports that the U.S. Air Force is letting its personnel know that it will provide families with medical and legal help if they are personally affected by new state laws attacking gay and transgender children. Its leaders informed personnel late last month, both internally and in a press release, that they have several resources available to them if they need help navigating anti-LGBTQ state laws that may be hurting their families. Specifically, Air Force leadership is telling service members that military medical facilities are available to provide mental health support to them or their children if they need it in the wake of the new laws in states like Florida, where schools are banned from talking about gender identity or sexual orientation, or Texas, where the governor is ordering state officials to investigate parents of transgender children for child abuse. They're also telling service members that military legal personnel are available to provide free counsel to families trying to understand their legal protections in states targeting gay and transgender kids. Air Force Undersecretary Gina Ortiz-Jones said this in a statement, quote, "The health, care, and resilience of our Air Force personnel and their families is not just our top priority. It's essential to our ability to accomplish the mission. We are closely tracking state laws and legislation to ensure we prepare for and mitigate effects to our airmen, guardians, and their families. Medical, legal resources, and various assistance are available for those who need them." Air Force leadership is also telling personnel that they can lean on an existing program, the Exceptional Family Member Program, if they need to be reassigned to a different state with a safer environment for their family or LGBTQ child. This kind of transfer could apply, for example, to an Air Force member who's stationed in Texas and raising a transgender child who needs gender-affirming treatment like hormone therapy. As is the case with all of our family members, if the support a family member needs becomes unavailable, commanders can work to get the service member to an assignment where their loved ones can receive the care they need, said Jones. This is almost unbelievable. I mean, for one, you actually have the branch of the military doing this because there seems to be a need for it. I never imagined seeing this happen. military personnel saying, hey, we're going to get you out of this hateful, disgusting, regressive hellhole that is going after you and your children for being gay and trans. We're going to take you out of Texas. What? What? I mean, look, Florida and Texas, at this point, how they're treating people in the LGBTQ community, they're like third world countries at this point. And look, this is happening all over this country. 170 anti-LGBT bills that have been proposed this year alone. This is an assault against people who just want to live their lives. That's it. That's it. Now, according to the article, at least a dozen states are now considering bills mirroring Florida's Don't Say Gay law. Oklahoma, Arizona, Iowa, and Utah this year passed laws banning transgender kids from participating in sports consistent with their gender identity. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey on Friday also signed a law making it a felony with penalties of up to 10 years in prison for parents and doctors to provide gender-affirming care like hormone treatments for transgender minors. Ivey also signed a law barring transgender children from using school bathrooms and locker rooms that match their gender identity, and a law limiting classroom discussions on gender and sexual orientation. So look, all of these things are basically a coordinated effort to erase LGBTQIA plus people from the face of the earth. And that's what it is. 100%. 100%. And look, what's worse about this than obviously the effect, which they don't care about, right? But the whole purpose behind that is to bring hateful, bigoted voters out to vote for Republicans. And that's what it is. In very gerrymandered elections. Remember, a lot of these Republicans from the census were able to redraw their districts in ways that allow them to stay in power. They do not any longer have to appeal to the majority of voters. All they have to do is appeal to a very small minority of people who absolutely love the culture wars. And that's what it is. They don't care that they're doing real harm here. Real harm. On Thursday, CBS 46 News reported that 4 teenagers in Loganville, Georgia, have been arrested following an incident in which they allegedly forced a 15-year-old male 9th grader into a bathroom closet for a prolonged period of time while spraying and dousing him with liquid cleaning products while taunting him with homophobic slurs. Police report. While the police reports state that the harassing comments were homophobic in nature, CBS 46 does not know if the student victim in this case identifies with the LGBTQ community and would not expose the victim's personal information without consent. So, again, even if that person is not part of that community, the fact that they're using these as slurs against them, it shows that, I mean, the homophobia and the transphobia is there. And look, it's a result of bigoted vitriol that kids hear from adults, and it's being used against the kids' classmates for bullying purposes. And this is only one example. I know it's anecdotal, but I'm pretty sure we're going to hear more about that, more about, bullying and attacking transgender people, attacking LGBT people, and all of that as Republicans continue to push this culture war narrative and to rip the country apart. Unfortunately, that's what they're trying to do, and they seem to be, in some cases, legislatively very successful. Okay. Moving on. Last story of the day. A bit of an update on Elon Musk's attempt to buy out Twitter. It appears that the board has unanimously rejected the effort of Elon Musk to do a hostile takeover of the company. They've announced a plan, the board has, that would allow shareholders to purchase additional stock to prevent Musk from gaining a majority of the shares. Now remember, Musk had purchased about 9% of the shares, so in an effort to become the majority shareholder in the company and to make decisions, essentially. Now, Twitter's board, in response to that, unanimously adopted a so-called shareholder rights plan, which is basically a poison pill. The rights plan will reduce the likelihood that any entity, person, or group gains control of Twitter through open market accumulation without paying all shareholders an appropriate control premium, which again would be incredibly expensive, even for someone like Elon Musk. The board's rights plan kicks in if a buyer takes 15% or more of Twitter's outstanding common stock in a transaction not approved by the board. Now, for Musk, look, again, this was to stop Elon Musk from taking the company and basically making it private and then making changes. One of the changes would be to bring back Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, her main account, things like that. And to turn it into a quote unquote free speech platform, which would essentially, if Elon Musk is a free speech absolutist, would include allowing people, because again, free speech, right? Nazis to do Nazi recruiting, people to boast things like child pornography to the platform. Hey, was that not free speech? Well, some people would argue it is. Those are the stuff that we would like to keep off the platform. That's why you need to have rules. That's why you can't have it just be the Wild West. And so I don't know what Elon Musk's ultimate plan would be. Shadow banning Ken Klippenstein for all the dunks? I don't know. But it's probably not a good idea. That said, is it a great idea to have these companies have so much power when it comes to communication? No. But it's also not a good thing to allow one billionaire to come in and buy it out. Now, that said, on Musk, he said that he could technically afford the buyout while offering no information on financing, though he would likely need to borrow money or part with some of his Tesla stock or SpaceX shares. And so he'd have to sell his own stock. All right, so look, isn't it funny that with all of that money that could be used to help humanity, reduce homelessness, eliminate hunger, that the richest man in the world is still trying to take over a social media company so that he could likely ban people that are mean to him, that troll him. The ego knows no bounds. The ego has not landed in this case. It is sky high. But like, honestly, Twitter, you don't even have to do that to scare off Elon Musk. I have a surefire way. I have the guarantee that no one will ever, at least Elon Musk, will never try to buy Twitter again. Unionize it. You do that, he's going to run for the hills. Seriously, though. Either break up the company and all these tech companies so they actually do compete, or allow them to unionize. Y'all need a union. Okay. That's all I got for y'all. He wants to ban all people critical of him and force people to like him. That sounds familiar. All right, super chats. Let's get to that, as well as Twitch. Okay. Here we go. Dingo Bingo, very kind today with the super chats. Let's see. Kentucky has outlawed public libraries. Not surprising. Tucker's complaining AOC was Sandy Hook. I don't necessarily know. I think that's, I just think that's one of those things of just being incredibly disrespectful by saying, oh, it's Sandy, and Sandy Cortez because you're middle class, you know, not actually working class, all that. You know, it's just his way of being an absolute dick. Let's see, maximizing profits is political. No, they use political means to do that, and so it is related. But it's not technically a political ideology. Or maybe it is, I don't know. I don't consider it. Let's see. Gabby Madsen says, can't afford much today, paid state taxes and a $770 car repair. Love your shirt. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Hey, look, our furnace went out. So we have 2 furnaces in this house, and one of them is broken now. And so I have to figure out how I'm going to get that fixed. So I hear you on that. Much more expensive, though, than the car repair, even though that $700, that hurts. That hurts. So thank you. I really appreciate you being generous with what little you have. Thank you. Every time you have to answer what an NFT is, you must answer this way. It's a Ponzi scheme. You're not buying anything except an internet web link that will be terminated any moment. Yep, that's true. And you become a literal Captain Planet villain. Crypto NFT is a cult. And then never forget that on the local state level, the Republican Party is full of open neo-Nazi politicians, positions of power. Yep. And as far as the different anti-LGBTQ laws, it's a genocide against them. And then Koru, thank you for the very kind $5 as well. So let's go to Twitch here. Becca 1359, thank you for resubbing at tier 1 for 5 months. Appreciate that. Rachel Aaron 0408, thank you for resubbing at tier 1 for 9 months. Thank you. I'm glad that you were able to catch me live. And I'm Christina. Thank you for resubbing for a month at tier 1 for 10 months. Thank you. Really, really appreciate it. Awesome. Everybody check out Christina. Go give her a follow, give her a subby, help her out. She's based. All right. With that, let's see. Anything else? Am I forgetting anything? I don't think so. All right, everybody. Try to have a great weekend. Oh, yeah. I do want to change that. I want to show you that video, by the way. You're going to love that. Hold on a second. Well, let's see. Let's do this real quick. Okay. Hold on.
I mean, maybe if they throw some more woke slogans at you, you'll forget you can't feed your family.
Oh, that's good. Wow. Creepy as hell. Anyway, I'll leave you off with that. Thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you.
Amazing.
They want to make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever. Technically.
Disappointed!
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.